Hello everybody, this is Brooke aka Supernatural Summer 34 and today we are back at it with another speed build. Firstly, I'd like to say that I'm really sorry I haven't gotten many videos out recently, but my mental health has not been up to par and The Sims really wasn't very enjoyable for a while. But today I built a Western style bar with an apartment on top here in Strangerville. If you're not a part of my Discord server, then you wouldn't know, but I'm starting over on the Not So Berry challenge, and this is going to be the first house for my Mint Sim. I didn't record her create a sim, sadly, but I think she's really cute. I wanted her to live in a desert-like area, but I didn't want to do Oasis Springs because that's where my Mint Gen lived last time. I knew I wanted to give her a realistic kind of home for someone just starting off, and I feel like renting out a little apartment on top of a bar would be pretty cheap. But it was a really hard decision to start over with Not So Berry because there's a lot of history with my old family. I'm going to miss them a lot though, but I am really excited to play with Marilyn Minthe Berry, which is her name. For the names this time, I realized that there aren't a lot of colorful names left, so I decided that I would be giving them normal names that start with the same letter as the generation name, but I did want to keep a little bit of the name theme, so heirs will have hyphenated names that match the generation theme, if that makes sense. But on to today's stories. I thought I would start off by talking about allergies because I have a lot of them. I have 9 allergies. 9. They are in order of most severe to least: cats, peanuts, tree nuts, mold, soy, dust, some kinds of laundry detergent, and sesame seeds. Now, I found out about most of these allergies when I was 6, and my mom took me to get an allergy test taken. She'd known I was allergic to cats since I was really little because she'd taken me home, and I think she had around 2 cats, and little baby Brooke could not handle all of the cat hair in her eyes. My mom had to get rid of the cats. But she took me to get the allergy test, and it came out that I was allergic to peanuts. Now, this really confused my mom because she'd been giving me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for lunch every day for about as long as I've been cognizant, so at the time my allergy to peanuts wasn't that bad because I'd eaten it every day. Which is why I'm not dead right now. Because as soon as we got home after I found out I was allergic to peanuts, I grabbed an entire case of Nutter Butters, went to the bathroom, and ate all of it. And I was fine. I have not eaten any kind of nuts since, though, until my brother's birthday party last June. It was a small gathering of my dad, stepmom, brother, sister, and I, and my dad brought out the cake. It was a chocolate cake, like a really chocolate cake, and to be safe, I asked my dad if there were any nuts in it. He said that he checked and that there were not, so I ate some cake. I only got about half a slice in, though, simply because of how much chocolate was on that cake. But we began hanging out, and soon my throat felt a little scratchy. I dismissed it because maybe I was getting a cold or something like that. Maybe I just had a frog stuck in my throat. Then my stomach started hurting. It hurt really bad, like I was almost crying on the floor bad. And I asked my dad if there were any nuts in the cake. He said that no, there weren't. My throat starts tightening, and again I ask my dad if there are any nuts in the cake. He gets a little annoyed at this point because this is the 3rd time I've asked and says that no, there are no nuts in the cake. I ask if he can take me home, and my sister protests because she doesn't want to go home yet, so I sit there, in agony, and wait. My stomach hurts and my throat is tight for a solid hour before my sister and dad decide it's time to go home, and it would have been longer if it weren't for my constant complaining. But I go inside once I'm home and lay down on the couch, and eventually the stomach ache and tight throat kind of go away. My stepdad gets home and I tell him about it. He looks concerned because, that sounds like a bad allergic reaction, and he tells me to have my dad send me a list of ingredients in the cake. I do so, ignoring my dad's remark about how there are no nuts, and read the ingredients. Y'all, the first ingredient on that cake was walnuts. It was bolded. The lettering was slightly bigger, everything to let you know that this cake contains nuts, and I almost slapped my father through the phone. Then I told my mom, and she yelled at him for a long time because I could have died. Another allergy-related story happened in 8th grade, which was 2 years ago. I had started to go to youth group because I was going to be a good little Christian girl who worships God and all that. But the second time I went, we were playing 9 square and I got hit in the face. If you don't know what 9 square is, it's like 4 square but in the air, and if you don't know what 4 square is, then it's a game that I was very bad at back in 5th grade. But I got hit in the face, and a couple minutes later, my eye starts swelling. It's red and watering and tender when you touch the eyelid. But I dismissed it. I figured I had gotten something in my eye and I could just wash it out. But it didn't wash out, so I resolved to wait it out. So I sat on a couch until my sister and one of the youth pastors came up to me. I didn't realize at the time exactly how bad my eye looked, but my sister took one look at me and told me I needed to go home. I argued with her because no, I wanted to stay and talk to people and worship and all that. We go back and forth until I finally admit that I need to go home because it's starting to really hurt. My mom and stepdad arrive, and they're both really worried about my eye. They ask what could have caused this, and I say that the only thing that came into contact with my eye was the 9 square ball. I can't believe a bouncy ball made my eye swell up to the size of a tennis ball. And we deduced that only 2 of my allergens could have made my eyes swell like that. It was either cat hair or dust. Freaking dust, of all things. But those are all of the allergy stories I have, at least the ones I can remember. My next story is set during elementary school, probably around 3rd or 4th grade. But this school served breakfast before school started so that the kids who had to wake up early on the bus and the low-income families could eat. But I was in the breakfast line, and at the time I had this really big cold sore at the spot where my top and bottom lip connected. Now, little Brooke was not good at leaving wounds be, so this cold sore that probably started out the size of the lead on a pencil ended up around the diameter of one of those thick Crayola markers. It was very large. But this kindergartner approached me, and I was really confused because what would a 6-year-old want with me? But this sweet little kindergartner looks at me and says, "Can you leave? You're scaring me." And oh my lord, did that hit my self-esteem hard. I did not leave though, because I wanted food. But another day I was in the line for breakfast again. Maybe this time I was in 1st or 2nd grade, and I was wearing this longer shirt that honestly is not flattering or cute in retrospect. It was purple and black polka dots with the cinched sleeves that always end up being itchy on your arms. It was also cinched like that at the bottom. I was wearing shorts underneath it, but you couldn't really see the shorts because the shirt was too long. But I put in my little code for breakfast, and the lady leans in close to me and whispers in my ear, "Are you wearing shorts under that?" Not in a creepy way or anything. She was a really nice lady, but I looked at her scandalized. I said that I was because honestly, what parent lets their 8-year-old leave the house in a dress without something underneath? Children are so bad at sitting with their legs closed, not to mention that they're climbing on the jungle gym all the time. I think I'll always find that question absurd. The next story skips forward a couple years, all the way to 7th grade. And it's a story about my first real boyfriend. So this guy, we'll call him Anthony, was in my health class, and we sat right next to each other in this class. We talked a little, as much as you can in class, and eventually he asked me out. It was the end of class, so I was packing up my stuff really quickly, and I said yes without really even thinking about it, and walked out of the class. But I realized a couple hours later that I didn't know his name. There was no way for me to contact him until the next day, though, so I had to wait. So I walked into class the next day, and we were doing some worksheet, and I peeked over to look at his name. I was trying to be inconspicuous, but I probably wasn't, but I accomplished what I had set out to do. But then, at the end of class, he asked for my name, and all of the guilt and embarrassment over not knowing his washes away. Anthony was actually my healthiest relationship out of all the ones I've had. There was no codependence nor emotional detachment. It was sweet, so perhaps it isn't actually that important to be good friends with someone before dating them. But Anthony and I dated, and he walked me home. One day he brought a friend of his with him and didn't really mention his name. Just asked if it was okay for him to walk with us. I said yes, but the entire walk I was staring at this guy because he looked really familiar. He was really tall, not 6 foot at the time, but he definitely is now, with longer brown hair, and I felt like I recognized him. He was looking at me too, and at the time I assumed it was because I was just about staring at him, but I later found out it was because he recognized me as well. But they dropped me off at my house and I pondered it over, but it isn't until the next day that I finally recognized him. I was walking home again with Anthony, and the guy is with us, and about halfway through the walk he turns to me and asks if I was in Mrs. Fletcher's class in 4th grade. I say that I was, and both of our faces lit up because we used to be really good friends in 4th grade. He was actually one of the 2 friends I had in 4th grade, so I had really good memories of him, and his name is Logan. But we were really good friends, but we ended up going to different middle schools, so we hadn't talked in 2 years. But Logan is someone I've talked about on here before. I've mentioned his YouTube channel, which is really close to 100K subscribers, so you should really subscribe if you like Minecraft. He's a really funny guy. But I've also talked about him in the context of him being my ex-boyfriend. But I've since gotten permission to use his real name. I called him Henry in my birthday create-a-sim, but that was actually Logan. If you want to subscribe to Logan, by the way, just look up Cheetah with 2 H's at the end, and he should be the first result. I'll also link it in the description for you guys, and if I don't, please remind me. Eventually, I broke up with Andre, in part because he was grounded, so I never got to see him, and in part because I had kind of lost feelings for him. So by spring, it was just Logan walking me home. It was around this time when Logan began liking me. Liking me, and I was completely oblivious. He would detour his walk home in order to walk with me, which honestly wasn't that bad of a detour, but I wouldn't have done it because it involved crossing a busy road not at an intersection, so jaywalking. And another thing that apparently cued everyone else in the world to his feelings for me was the fact that he carried my backpack for me. So, if you don't know, I live in the Midwest, Michigan in particular. This meant that from March until May, it would be really cold in the mornings and really hot in the afternoon. So my mom made me wear a coat to school because I walked in the mornings, but since it was so hot in the afternoon, I stuffed my coat into my backpack, which grew to be thicker and more bulging than my own body. I was struggling because I had the giant black backpack on my back in the blazing heat, and it wasn't heavy or anything, it was just a pain to carry. So Logan started carrying it. Now this was after me asking a couple times because this boy wouldn't get cold in the North Pole, so he didn't have a coat to stuff into his backpack. He was coat free, but he started carrying it for me. Now before I get yelled at for being lazy, I was still carrying stuff. A lot of stuff. Since my coat was in my backpack, my binders for class couldn't fit in there, so I was carrying those. I was also carrying my recreational reading, as well as my Trapper Keeper, so this was not me being lazy. But one day we arrived at my house, he handed me my backpack, and I hugged him before walking inside. My mom had gotten home early from work that day, so she was waiting for me at the door, and as soon as I walked in, she said, "He likes you." I denied it because no, we were just really good friends. But the summer after 8th grade, Logan contacted me in the middle of the night. I'm still awake though, but I'm really tired. Logan asks if I'm going to remember what he says if he confesses something. I am instantly wide awake. I say no, I will not remember, because I am so sleepy. Now, I may have lied a little right there, but honestly, I scrolled back through messages often enough where I would have noticed this big confession the next day, and I am freaking Curious George when it comes to secrets. I am not as annoying about it as my friend Xander because he does the whole tell me thing, and it makes people want to bash him over the head, but I do enjoy knowing secrets, particularly about feelings, and particularly feelings concerning me. He's skeptical as to whether I'm actually super tired, but he plows on because keeping things to yourself is never fun, and I probably would have killed him if he just left the conversation off with, "Will you remember this in the morning?" So Logan confesses that he has a crush on me. And I was not expecting that. I was expecting, like, I don't know, something else. Maybe that he likes someone else. Maybe that he was moving schools or something. I really have no idea what I was expecting, but it was not that. And I think I responded with something along the lines of, Oh? Then I go to explain that I don't have feelings for him and that I was sorry he felt the need to not tell me, blah, 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 blah. And then we started dating, like 3 or 4 months later. And then we broke up. And now he has a new girlfriend, who honestly seems really nice and sweet and good for him, because as much as I adore Logan, we were not a good couple. Now, I have a couple more stories about Logan and Anthony that don't really consist of much, but they're really funny to me. So it was late fall, and Michigan, if you don't know, is very swampy. So we have a lot of cattails. Anthony and Logan decided they were going to break the cattails. Now, if you don't know much about cattails, let me explain. Cattails are this plant that look kind of like a corn dog, so you think they'd be great for biting. You would be very, very wrong. Cattails have hundreds of thousands of seedlings tightly packed into their corn dog shape, and when they break, they explode and get everywhere. So Logan, being the very smart person that he is, decided he was going to break them by slapping them onto the sidewalk. I was looking at him and Anthony as they did this, and millions of the little white fluffy seedlings exploded. They got into my eyes and hair. They went up my nose and they stuck to my tongue, and let me tell you, they do not taste good. But Logan and Anthony experienced the worst of it because they were laughing and their faces were maybe 2 feet away from the point of impact. We spent the rest of our walk picking cattail seedlings out of our hair, and though I usually hate doing this, I was spitting into the grass because I was trying to get them out of my mouth. During the next day's walk, Logan actually told me that he still had cattails in his hair, even after he took a shower. And this last story happened that same year, but in the winter. Now, I am a foot shorter than Logan. Logan is much stronger than I am. You know those chihuahuas that bark and bite and you coo at them about how small and cute they are, knowing that they can't really do much? That was me. I was the chihuahua. So one day, as we were walking home, I picked up a snowball and threw it at Logan. I hit like his mid-back, but later in the walk, he throws an ice ball at me. An ice ball that is bigger than my head, which is where it hit, and I almost killed him. But then I saw how guilty he was, because he thought it was a regular snowball. And instead of murdering him, which would land me in prison, I allowed him to plead for forgiveness until we reached my house. But we are coming up on the end of the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment down below, and I will see you all tomorrow.